All right, Jeff, we just had not one but two tribal councils in your first 3 days for season 40, Winners at War, going big. Expected nothing less. Let's talk about the first tribal council, the Sele tribal council. You experienced a tribal, what I experienced at the camp earlier that day, which was interesting because I saw like a 5-10 minute conversation where they're all trying to figure out who to vote out, and no one's bringing up a name.
Right. Yeah, it was really tentative, but it wasn't tentative with no energy. It was tentative with massive intensity. That was a really strange tribal because nobody wanted to say anything, but people had a lot to say, as evidenced by they got up and they were whispering and everybody was starting to panic. And then as the tribal went on, it got more and more intense and people got more and more uncomfortable, fearing that it was them, and yet still nobody was saying a name. And it was exhausting for me, and I didn't even ask that many questions. None of them were that penetrating or trying to get anywhere. It was basic Survivor. But what you saw was, I think, the theme, which is winners at war, and this is how we're going to be in the beginning, which is a little cagey.
But then what's interesting also about that first tribal is you've had a lot of live tribals lately, but you had a lot of old school players, people like Ethan, who have never been in a live tribal before, yet they're jumping out of their seats and running over and whispering to each other.
I like that because I wondered when we mixed so many different eras if there might be old school players that would say, that's not what I do. I just sit in my seat. But instead, what it showed me is all these players are still watching and they're taking notes and they're realizing if I'm not standing up when somebody else is, I'm probably in trouble. You know, adapt or die, whatever that is. You have to adapt in this game. And I would be up. I'd be whispering. I'd want to come back over you and say, listen, are we, look at me, Dalton, look at me. I'd want to be doing that. And I do believe when people said that they were nervous, I believed them. Some tribals I know people are lying, but, you know, just putting on a show. I believe everybody was nervous.
Were you surprised Boston Rob's name really didn't seem to come up at all? Maybe biggest threat in the entire game. Other players didn't even seem to consider him.
Yeah, but the thing is, yes, I know what you're saying. It's the first tribal, but you just don't know what the plan is. It could be, we're not going for Rob first. We're not going. First of all, it's a good thing they didn't because, you know, you need a guy like that in your challenges when you lose your first one. You want a guy like Rob around. But I just don't trust anything. I think that it's going to be one tribal after another where it's a complete reset. You just can't trust anybody. And the $2 million, even though I wasn't sure how much of a difference it would really make, I clearly was way off because it's obvious that it's made a massive difference and that people are saying to each other, we don't have to explain, we're gonna kill each other. It's $2 million, we'll still be friends, or not, don't really care. It's $2 million.
Was Natalie's cardinal sin just having played with Jeremy?
It's hard to know if Natalie was taken out truly because she played with somebody on her season in Jeremy, or if that's just the excuse that people give to give themselves a reason to then reestablish with Natalie if she gets back in from extinction. Because the thing that's not lost on me is that they're all, not only are they good Survivor players, they're all aware of what the image is when they vote somebody out. So if you vote out Natalie for reason A, it's because you don't like her. It's hard to recover. If you say, I'm sorry, you know, you had a relationship with Jeremy and I just couldn't risk it. Well, that's hard for her to be upset about. So, seems like a really great strategy. It was you or Jeremy. We picked you. Flipped a coin. So sorry.
Flipped maybe a fire token. All right, so we're sitting here at the minutes after the second tribal minutes after the second tribal council, the DeKalb tribal council just finished. I just mentioned how at the Sele, they didn't take a shot at Boston Rob, but it seems to me DeKalb took a shot at Boston Rob by taking out his wife Amber. Do you think that's what happened? I
think Amber probably was taken out merely as a way to just even the playing field. And I'm guessing that they wanted to see what Sele did with the first tribal. And when Rob didn't come out, I bet that was a conversation, which is we're not going to have two of them in forever. And what hurts Amber is she's not super strong at challenges. I'm not saying she doesn't perform, but it's not like it's a Wendell or a Yule. So you can make the argument she's a good person to lose. It takes a little wind out of Rob's sail, And who knows what Boston Rob's reaction could be. Because it could be the obvious, which is, oh, you took out my wife, I'm coming for you. Or, knowing Rob, it could be, that's great. Because one of us had to go. We knew that. You go to Extinction and get to work and figure out what to do over there. And what Amber's going to find when she gets there is stuff she could do. And now she could be funneling stuff to her husband. It just depends if she can carry the load and do what she needs to do on Extinction to make it work. But it's possible that having Amber over there could benefit Rob.
I'm dying to see Rob's reaction when he sees that they voted her out. Can I just say one more day? Will you let me stay one more day out here just to see that reaction? It's worth it. It's incredible.
I'm guessing, let's just say now, let's wager, and then we'll watch the episode. Yeah. I'm guessing he gives nothing away at all.
I agree.
And if I ask him a question, he'd say, Jeff, it had to happen.
Most fascinating thing that I just saw at this tribal, don't even know if it'll make it into the episode or not, was Kim saying, I made the biggest mistake of my life a year ago by going to a 3-hour poker tournament with a bunch of guys I'd never met before, because now it's perceived that I have a relationship outside of the game with these people. That's the fascinating thing about this game, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, now that we're in our 20th year, there's no denying the fact that some of these guys, it's no surprise that some of these guys have become friends, and they are in each other's weddings, or they socialize in different ways when they're in each other's cities. The question I have is, will relationships that are outside of this game last for 30? Will that be the determining factor for 39 days? Or is that, we're getting our feet wet, I've got an easy way to get rid of somebody, I'm just going to say this. So I'm not sold yet that any of these reasons that they're giving, which have to do with you were friends, or you played on a season, and you and I played in a poker tournament, I'm just not buying it yet, because that can't hold for the whole game. But it's a really easy way to vote somebody out with an excuse. Justified ethics, one of the hallmarks of Survivor. Hey, Kim, man, I didn't play in the poker game. What do you want me to do? I got everybody telling me you're a threat because you know these. I don't know. It's nothing personal. That's a great way to vote somebody out versus, I'm taking you out, man, because I want to beat you. How do you recover? So I'm sticking with that right now. I'm the detective in this case. I'm not sure he did the murder yet.
What about just Kim and Nick, both winners, won their seasons, and Nick won very recently in a very fast-paced, crazy game season, and they said, I never felt I was in any trouble like I did in my first 3 days here. What does that say about the level of competition?
Well, I can speak to it because my first question tonight was, it's only 3 days. Does it feel like a lot longer, or is it just me? And everybody, Tyson said it feels like I've been here forever. That's how I feel. And I'm going off of my time with them. I feel it. I don't know how to describe it. In the same way that I love this tribal because it's just a feeling. I just like what Dax built. I feel the intensity of the way they're playing the game. So I don't see how it can keep this pace. It just seems like at some point here soon, they're going to have to, everybody's going to collapse if they don't just take a breath. It's kind of like this. When we're prepping the show, we're prepping for the marooning and then the first episode. And when the first episode ends, like it just did, I can already feel a lot of the crew doing the same thing I'm ready to do, which is just go, okay, we're off and running. So if it keeps this pace, there will be people dropping from exhaustion.
And the pacing is a huge issue. I mean, it came up in this tribal council between Amber and Tony, right? She's trying to adjust to what might be maybe a normal new game pace, and to her it's like, whoa, slow down.
Yeah, I think what really showed in tonight's tribal was that Amber was just not up to speed on the game. And she's going to argue and say, yes, I was, and I'm going to say, it didn't seem like it, because the fact that you called out Tony for wigging out, that's just another day out here. That's all the time. He did it the first 2 seasons he played. I think Amber got it handed to her a little bit. I love Amber. I mean, she was the unicorn of this season. She's the woman we didn't think we would get to come play. I'm glad she came play, and she's on Extinction, and she could get back in. But tonight, I think you saw 9 people go, oh, she's easy, and it'll really piss off Rob. Let's do it.
All right, last thing before I let you go. Every single person has been to tribal council in the first 3 days. Who either impressed you the most or surprised you the most in these first 2 tribals? Give me one name.
There are a few. One name?
You can give me as many names as you want.
Well, there's a few people who play this game over and over, and they are so good at giving you an answer that's entertaining or funny and says absolutely nothing. And it's people like Rob and Parvati and and Sandra and Tyson. Wendell's getting really good at it too. And then you see other players, they're savvy, but there's this next level thing of when you're in trouble, you go to one of those guys, one of those people, and they give you something. The difference this season, though, is I can honestly say we have 20 great storytellers. Even people who are a little nervous out of the gate and aren't maybe on their A game, they're still good. They're still moving story forward, and that's what we look for.
Good stuff, man. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks for being out here.